Greetings Earthlings, and welcome to something a little bit different to our usual output from First Aid Spray. Now, if you're like me and you yearn for the days of physical media doing everything it can to warrant a purchase, then you'll no doubt be a fan of DVD bonus features, and in particular, audio commentaries. My DVD buying was often swayed by whether it had an audio commentary track or not, and there's plenty of must-listen-to ones out there. Which brings us to today, where we're doing the very first Aid Spray audio commentary track. And there can, of course, be no better place to start than with the most recent Resident Evil movie, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, in the booth with me today, virtually, are two of the Pueblo people who couldn't join us for the main podcast review of the film late last year. Sauntering his way in like a flaming zombie without a care in the world, but always with plenty to say. In our favourite soothing tones, it's Fire Button Steve Valance.
Hello, everybody.
I see what you did there. Flaming zombie fire bomb. It's beautiful.
And stepping away from the forge to offer some steamy takes and just tell us, hey, yeah, 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 hey, what's going on? It's Sherwin Matthews.
I have no idea what's going on. None. And at any given time.
So, yeah, this is going to be an opportunity for you both to either gush or completely lament over Welcome to Raccoon City, because neither of you were present on the main fast review. And once the film is over, you can both give a nice summary, but you're going to have lots of opportunity to say what you think before that, because we're here today. We're going to watch the film together, and the listeners can sync us up with the film. And yeah, get an audio commentary that you didn't get on the home release, because that was kind of lacking in special features. So what I'm going to do for those listening, I'm going to hand this over to Steve, and what Steve's going to do is give a bit of a countdown and an instruction on how to sync this up, because Steve's the one in control of this. Yeah, just pop in your DVD or Blu-ray or load up your digital copy or whatever you've got of Welcome to Raccoon City, and get ready. Steve, do you want to kind of take it away? We can get started and get right into it.
Okay, now this is not a definite science, listeners, but what I need you to do first is as KDB said, boot it up, and on the second that the Sony logo has gone bing, you want to pause it, and then I'm going to count you in. It's going to be a 3, 2, 1, and then 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, then we go. You press play, and then it's all synced up, and it's lovely, theoretically. Okay. So with that in mind, I hope you're all bracing yourselves for a lovely jaunt in Raccoon City and a bit of an adventure with us. I'm quietly terrified, I've got to be honest. And enough stalling. 3, 2, 1, go.
What a Sony logo.
Yeah. Already in there with the big marketing and all that stuff. I'm trying to think who else made this film, and I guess we're about to see.
Screen Gems. I think Screen Gems is the first time I saw the logo was the original Resident Evil film, but I'm sure there was other movies that they made.
It's that line between direct to TV and video game movie, that branding of Constantine Films, I believe, is Paul W.S. Anderson's outfit, right? Because I remember seeing that on Event Horizon, stuff like that. It
is indeed. Thankfully, though, well, I say thankfully, little involvement with this film. So this is the third time seeing this movie, I think, for all of us. Is that correct? This is the third time for me.
Yeah, third time. Out of curiosity, Davis Raccoon Films. Has anyone heard of that before? Or heard of them before, I should say?
No.
I like to think... Go on.
No, go on, Sherwin.
I was just going to say, I see this, and I begin to wonder whether this is somebody called Davis who actually makes like wildlife films about raccoons and just got really confused and subsequently involved in this project.
Did you all just see the brand just there in the top right corner?
I did.
The First Aid Spray advert behind the smoking nurse.
It's reference number 1. Another reference as well. I'm going to try and drop in some trivia. So the credits font that's showing up, that's a direct... There are millions of nods to John Carpenter over this film, but just the credit font there is written in the same font as Prince of Darkness. So there you go. That's Carpenter reference number 1.
It's also worth just quickly jumping in. We've missed it now. It's a few seconds back, but there's a couple of Silent Hill nods in this opening part with the pink rabbit, as well as obviously the nurse uniform, which is interesting that they scraped those in, considering what the format, what this actual film is.
I'm sure Konami won't notice. They don't seem to do anything with the franchise, right? We can get Robbie and Lisa in. It's cool. maybe.
So this is obviously the biggest deviation, possibly, from the source material. Introduction of Lisa Trevor in the orphanage with Claire as she's a child. How do we feel about this?
I think... Go on, Steve.
Go on, Sherwin.
Oh, okay.
No.
I think the thing you have to understand about any Resident Evil movie is that it's never going to be something where it's based on, Resident Evil. It's never going to be the Resident Evil that you know and are familiar with from any of the games or from any other medium. It's any given Resident Evil movie is always effectively its own universe, its own thing, whether that be some of the terrible things that have been done to the series over the years, or even the CG stuff that's a bit more direct. It's just, that's what it is. And it's always, I always think of these as just inspired by kind of efforts as much as anything else.
Yeah. Si made a great point on the actual review we did of this, that it's probably not possible to actually adapt it in the way that anybody wants it to, which is fine. And that's something I'm fine with. Lots of people know I enjoyed this movie, and the fact that it isn't the same as the source material is not even one... I have criticisms. That's not a criticism that I have of this film.
I'm just trying to figure out what is the narrative purpose of her, because she's clearly still some kind of victim of experimentation, and she's just somehow able to wander the halls of an orphanage populated with kids while draped in the flesh of somebody.
I think that's the worst part about the Lisa Trevor appearance in this, is that it is so completely pointless. There's simply no purpose for her to be.
You could take it out, yeah.
It's the equivalent of how Michael Myers show up. Why are they there? Why is it just a slasher villain looking character just sauntering around a village? Yeah. Except in this case, it's meant to have a scientific explanation, theoretically.
So
I can appreciate it as a nod, and I understand it's basically a poster character, but I'm also it doesn't really make me brain go anywhere. So,
I think now might have to listen closely to this, but this, as Claire approaches Lisa, there's a music box playing, and it's "Go Tell Aunt Rhody" from Resident Evil 7.
Ah, okay.
There you go, yeah. Which I thought was quite cool. And that's the thing with this film is there's a ton of references. There's a ton of, nods to things that may make no sense, but they're in there. And, as a fan, it's fun to see that. It doesn't necessarily strengthen the film's narrative or things like that, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy little things like that.
So I think we've got one of the really good poster shots now, haven't we? With Lisa's hair bleeding through one of the eye slots.
And that's good. The hands coming out, this is another thing I said. Visually, this film is fantastic. Script-wise and stuff, well, I mean, not so.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think some of the cinematography for this is very solid. Whether it be some awesome nods to kind of old horror movies, whether it be something where it's in terms of the actual style of it, it's got its own unique, or not necessarily unique, but it's very well rooted in sort of horror movies. A lot of it is really quite well done.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like it's really quite well done to a point, which is interesting because obviously I'm under no illusions that films are filmed literally from start to finish. Obviously they'll do them in whatever sequence best suits production. But the point is there's like a cut-off point, I think, in this movie where you start to lose all of the cool-looking shots, all of the parts where you go, that looks quite clever, or that feels quite fun, and it just starts to feel much like a made-for-TV kind of effort.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Did they put a wig on Neil McDonough's head? Sorry.
Has he been in a good movie yet?
He was in Star Trek First Contact.
And 5 other video game movies, I think.
Yeah, point remains, has he been in a good movie yet?
Hey, I like Star Trek First Contact. Robot zombies, what's not to love?
Oh, actually, yeah, I do remember. That was a very young version of him, wasn't it? He was like the random
he was the
ensign.
red shirt.
Yeah, I remember now. Huh.
That's the problem with this film. I'm meant to be watching it as a film, and I'm looking for Easter eggs and stuff now. This is.
That's better than watching it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that bit from Red Dwarf with the tension sheet. Sorry, no,
So this did something very similar to the Mortal Kombat movie, which we also reviewed last year. Whereas the opening sequence, I like this opening sequence. Whether you think Lisa Trevor is pointless. Just the tone this sets, the style, it's drawn out. It's like, okay. I remember being in the cinema thinking, this could be a really scary film. And then it just isn't, which is a shame. And the Mortal Kombat movie did the same thing. It had an incredible sort of classy cinematic opening and then just changed into a Marvel combat, as Steve called it.
I mean, to be fair, right, the not to go completely on a tangent, the opening 10 minutes of the Mortal Kombat 2021,
Yeah,
2019?
21.
Whatever. Yeah, with Sub-Zero and Scorpion, it's almost some Akira Kurosawa stuff with a bit of comic book lilt to it.
Yeah.
Vastly better. Oh my goodness.
Strange editing there, which I remember seeing. It just cuts back to her once. There's a few times where the film does this. It hangs on weird shots and has weird cuts away. So here's Claire Redfield and the burger. Oh, look at that.
Everyone's favourite cameo, the RE2 remake burger.
Once again, do you think that this, and this is an interesting point, you could happily not have Claire coming into town in this vehicle. This is another change where it's one of those things where you look at it and go, you didn't necessarily need to have this. You could just have that guy's a maniac, why'd he bite me? You could, or whatever else. You could happily have this and then just show Claire driving in on a bike at the start of her sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the complaints I remember Jordan, and it might have been Jordan or Adam, said, this truck driver gets a lot of screen time when he probably shouldn't have. And it is a weird choice. It just feels like they went hard on Remake 2 and homaging to Remake 2.
Did they... was this filmed in Canada? I'm only making the assumption that because there might be a union thing where actors have to have so much screen time or something.
You think about stuff like that and you very well could be right. But then also, it could just be, we need the exposition scene. We need things explained, and this is what it is, because there's very little exposition anywhere else in this movie. I think it happens maybe one other time.
I think, that's a big complaint about this movie. Well, I'll quickly lead into two things here. The first one's obviously relating to that point is, I think one of the reasons why this film doesn't necessarily work very well, if you're not a Resident Evil fan, is it relies on you knowing what Resident Evil is and what's going on in Resident Evil so much, because there's so little actual exposition, there's so little kind of explanation of anything that it's just very half-formed. Like, the dialogue doesn't make any effort whatsoever to tell you about what Resident Evil is. If you're a casual cinema goer who's never even heard of Resident Evil, those people do exist. You have no idea. And
you're completely spot on.
Yeah, it just fails as a point. But then at the same time, if you're a Resident Evil fan, it, for all the reasons I'm sure we're going to get into, also misses the mark, because it just doesn't feel authentic to what we're looking at, even with bits and pieces. But the other point I just quickly touch on, purely because of the part where Claire turns on the radio there, and I will be quiet in a moment so we can all look at this wonderful zombie standing up in the background. This is another one of those movies where I think Captain Marvel suffered from this as well. It sounds like someone who wasn't alive in the 90s went, here's some 90s music, and this is the sort of thing that people listened to back then. It's like the way that the music that people are listening to, the way that it's portrayed or whatever else, that sort of stuff, just simply doesn't feel on mark. Like, it's almost like someone went, oh yeah, well, this was a song then, back then, and this fits here and this fits here, without any understanding of that's not the type of person who would listen to that music, or that's not something which you would hear that particular track in that context or whatever else. It's really interesting how much there's almost, you'd imagine of all things to try and kind of source and get someone to sit there and advise and go, this is how, this is a good nod. That would be a really easy thing to do, because old people like myself and Steve are still able to feed that sort of stuff back.
You can lead into the, if you want to do more game references, literally Queen, the band, is referenced so many times with the Redfields especially. You could have landed into that. Yeah. But you probably want Cotton Eye Joe over half of this than some of the other things.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I do wonder, is that a budget thing? Because this film's budget is tiny. Now, you were talking about the exposition as well, Sherwin. So for me, I made a point before that this title card here, I see this and I think, okay, this is explaining to me this film, and that's probably all I'm going to get. And I just kind of make peace with stuff like that. And, I am a Resident Evil fan that watches this, and so there's a lot I don't enjoy about the movie, but for what it is, I think I don't need somebody to necessarily hold my hand, because there's, plenty of old schlocky movies where nothing is explained and things are a bit nonsense, and it's more just sort of a visual fun fest thing. And this...
Is it the... Yes, yeah. It's the most divisive legend in history.
Yes,
isn't it?
Here he is, bedsheet coming off the head. But yeah,
do you know what?
I get what we say about the exposition and all that.
Do you know what? I like Leon Carlos. I think as much as the casting does feel an interesting choice or a bold choice, whichever way you want to say it, I do think the character of Leon in this is spot on to original Leon.
He's the strongest character in the movie for me.
Speaking of characters I actually like Wesker in this as well.
I think
the original.
But... I think I would say this character feels most authentic to their Resident Evil counterpart, with exception of, I think they did a really, really, really good job of capturing Jill Valentine. They just gave her the Claire Redfield name.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress, because we can't talk over this scene.
Yeah.
You guys must have some opinions here.
So yeah, not a fan of that. Trigger happy Jill is so strange. Not really crazy about that. Just back on Leon quickly. I'm a big fan of Leon in this film as well. And just to go back to John Carpenter again, Kurt Russell's character in John Carpenter, in Big Trouble in Little China, which is a John Carpenter film. It's based on that, where he's this, buffoon who then... spoiler, kills the villain at the end, which is exactly what Leon does in this movie. And whether he should have got the payoff, I'm not sure, but I do like it.
Just kind of get a rocket launcher from nowhere, if I remember right. We'll know when we get there.
He got it from First Class, Steve.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I like the sandwich line, but...
I think Jill is easily the most egregious misstep in this movie in terms of character, in terms of many things, but certainly the character just simply doesn't feel like Jill. And whilst I get it, as I said, it's inspired by, I'm still not sure that you want to have something, some sort of shell of the character still there, at least for people to sort of look at, or otherwise, again, why are you actually making this? Why is Jill here? If that makes sense.
Yeah, why is she called Jill? Why is this Resident Evil? It's a completely fair point, and one of the most common complaints about the movie is the characters and what they embody. I know it's not the Jill from the games. I don't dislike the Jill in this movie. I think she shows the character that we get here, although it's not worthy of the Jill Valentine name. I kind of like her. She's sympathetic towards Leon in a bit. She saves a lot of people in the movie. But yeah.
Not to derail, it's just Kevin Dooley, right? He could have been Barry with that beard. Not to completely just go recasting characters.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I don't think Barry can be that much of a dickhead, but also Jill's not so much the cool and collected person she is. She's more of a gung-ho maniac.
This is Kevin Dooley and Enrico, isn't it? In two of the very strange random names where they should probably just not have done that at all.
Yeah, it's just dropping names onto characters that become fodder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Visually, again, I just think this is strong. That's a nice wide shot there of the diner, and you talk about the cinematography. It does kind of fall apart a bit later. CG, I'm sure we'll talk about as well, but this feels like a horror movie here. It feels like we could be going somewhere creepy and tense, and we don't really get that.
So, right, we've got Richard. That guy's Richard, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. It's a sweet moment. I like that.
Also, the first time those two characters have exchanged words in the entire franchise.
Wow. And people say this film gave us nothing.
It is a bit weird how this is like. I think in relation to 3 different characters. So here we have Leon, then later on Claire and Chris, if memory serves, and then also Wesker, obviously. It's really interesting how much they made a point of saying how everyone wants to bone Jill. Like it's just a weird thing. How they kind of steer towards that. I just found it very strange.
I know Leon doesn't get a lot of highlight moments of being slightly more inquisitive and smart in this film, so the fact that he's the first person to point out you're not going to get that checked is nice, considering he's a complete Burke half the time.
Yeah, and I like that, the blood coming from the eye as well, and how we see this diner lady again later. Oh, here we go, though.
There are some strange things we can talk about with relation to the zombies in this, which we will get onto. But yeah, I think excuse me. I think having a portrayal of the blood dripping from the eye is certainly one of the better of things that's introduced in this.
Yeah,
it's followed up by PS2 Crow.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I like PS2 Crow. It was kind of fun. It's kind of derpy.
There's one later that looks a bit better, I think, which is possibly a practical one. Probably.
Blood still on the friggin' bumper in front of it. Yeah. She's fine, bro. Yeah, she just walked off.
It's an interesting point. Have you seen how high the blood splatter is up on that truck? Like, either the girl you hit who wandered off into the forest, which, by the way, is very un-zombie-like behaviour, really, jumped in the air at the last moment or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, that's like the dog looks kind of good there with the foam and then just later it just falls apart with a completely CG dog.
Well, I also think the slightly weird thing about...
I think it's just CG in the eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a slightly weird thing about the dog is how much the dog doesn't behave like a zombie.
No.
Other than that random bite, which I can get...
Well, he's turning. He's turning.
Yeah, he's turning, he's scared, he bites, right?
Yeah.
But after that, he kind of just doesn't feel like a zombie at all.
No.
It's kind of odd. But then that consistency is... We will definitely touch on that later on.
Chris, it's like nowhere near Christmas. Why have you got lights around your door? Sorry, that's just completely sidetracking myself.
It's Frat House. He loves it.
Claire. Pie boy Chris Redfield.
Yeah. Here comes Claire, the master of unlocking. Which, why did they do that? It's an interesting choice again, but they did it.
It's hard for me to dissociate Kaya Scodelario from Effie from Skins half the time. So she was a tearaway teenage troublemaker in that.
Yeah, so. I've never watched that show really. I knew it existed, so I don't think I've seen this actor in anything else. So she is Claire Redfield for me.
Oh, it's the Chernobyl zombies,
yes,
or as they call it in the credits.
This is another thumbs up for me. Because you don't see it, and zombies are always the same in movies, and this is a Marmite type thing. You're either going to like it or you're not. I liked it just because it felt fresh, and you see them later heading towards the police station, pulling their hair out, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Doesn't this take place... while watching the film, Stevie, you'll find out, but does this take place over the course of one night, or
it does.
2 nights?
Wednesday the 30th of September.
Yeah, with the you can tell because it's got the really obnoxious and quite honestly a bit pointless timestamps.
Yeah,
as you go through, which are an odd choice and not one I think you would really do.
No.
See, this is a professional audio commentary track. Stephen's seen this film for 2 months. Hey.
Why would you eat that? I walked into random house.
Yeah.
Why would you just eat some random rotting food on the table?
Teach your brother a lesson in complacency.
I think when you just broke into his house and it took you all of about 0.5 of a second, I think you've taught him enough already.
a logo there for what I assume is the Raccoons, a local football team. Has that ever been mentioned in the games?
Oh, I know there's some sports teams, but I can't honestly remember. Because like Outbreak has like there's a match happening in the opening FMV, like you hear on the TV in the background.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You don't see the match, but you obviously hear about the match being broken up because of rioters.
So, how do you guys feel about Chris?
I was about to say, I think they did Chris quite well. Which is interesting because he's one of the characters that has the least character in the entire game series.
Yeah, exactly.
As the everyman of the movie, of the series rather, Chris. I think Robbie Amell did a fantastic job as like RE1 era Chris. Just a dude who's just trying to get through it in one piece and do the right thing.
Yeah, his backstory connecting to Birkin is a bit funky, but the rest of it is good.
Yeah. See, it's sucking us in, this scene. We're silent. You can hear a pin drop.
I was just trying to work it.
It's the helmet.
This is always
totally see brother and sister arguing on that.
This is always the danger of every commentary. You start watching the thing that you're actually supposed to be talking about. I was just thinking actually whether it's worth raising the picture. I do like the picture of Birkin and Chris together there that she just picked up and then dropped back down again. What I do like the most about that is the fact that they've hit the tone perfectly right for that sort of PS1/2 era where the pictures didn't look like they're actually been taken very well. They look like they're putting the two together.
Yeah, spot on.
Also, Chris, set the timer on your VCR, mate. It's not that much effort, is it?
This is a guy who's still got his Christmas lights up show and he don't care. He's busy.
I mean, it's true. Party boy Chris is not about that lifestyle.
And here's Benjamin.
Yep.
The glue that holds this film together.
Yeah. Turning him from a journalist into a conspiracy theorist, I can see where they were going. I mean, this is a game series or a movie a movie of a game series, Stephen. You're good at English. They would need a maniac with a pinboard. Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind of set that up.
I think
admittedly that's more as a joke, but in this case it works.
What's interesting about this is the it doesn't necessarily hold up in terms of how she got this. He's obviously recorded himself talking about this thing that's happened and how bad it is, but this is in a time where before you sent videos to people via the internet, right? So it basically he recorded this on a camera and then sent it through the post to her at no known address because she's just a vagrant who wanders around everywhere, or maybe she does have a flat somewhere or whatever. But sort of fired it over to her, whereas she talks about how she talks to him all the time in chat rooms. If he's not concerned, the internet chat room isn't secure enough, so I need to record this thing and send it to you through the post. It's the US Postal Service. It's a weird thing that this video kind of exists, other than as a plot device.
I mean, if he really had all this evidence and stuff, you'd think there'd be a tape out to every outlet, not just one random crazy lady who they've met on the... What? It's like an online conversation thing in the late 90s?
MSN.
Yeah, well.
So here's another egregious change from the game, where obviously they're happily married.
Birkin and Birkin's wife and Birkin's daughter.
Birkin, wife who shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
To be fair, Birkin's child isn't necessarily Sherry either, so...
No. So she's dreaming about a hunter, right? That's what that reference is, surely.
I'm still trying to figure out what Birkin's goals are. He's doing all this science and stuff, but you don't really see, this is my life's work to do this, this, and this. He, just says one line about you can't have it. Not really much motivation to be an evil scientist. He just is.
Well, he's kind of like the budget version of Birkin. It's quite a nice shot, this, by the way.
Yeah.
Just a side note. He's a bit Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's kind of fun. No, I think he's a bit like Budget Birkin in this, isn't it? Like, hey, I used to have like a whole big underground lab and all this like money to do this. Now I've kind of got an orphanage. Like,
Yeah, and he has just a little dungeon.
Yeah, like I don't really have like that sort of cool stuff again. This is like the alternate version that Birkin could have gone. It didn't quite work out for him.
I'm a sucker for air raid sirens, honestly. Whenever I hear them,
it's another nice Silent Hill nod, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Especially when in the moment, yeah, there you go. Lights are all going to go off.
Yeah.
Which is another nice nod. Yeah.
So, how is it that, I know you've got to suspend disbelief in these kind of things, but how is it that Umbrella's the ones calling the shots on when people can and can't evacuate the town?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, because I thought they had left. Right?
They abandoned it, from what I understand from that little text box earlier.
Yes.
Well, I think you've also got that interesting point that I always have with anything like this, where, and we'll see it later on with that whole idea of, yes, the thing is we've blocked off all the exits to this town. You can't go anywhere. But really, you blocked off all of the forests and all the other stuff around it. Like no one's got any hope of getting out. Like you can block the roads and stuff, but I'm sure there's ways out. So is that just quickly? Is that a nod to the idea that the STARS members and I guess the police guys as well are drinking sort of umbrella purified water,
Exactly.
so they don't become
some kind of thing. That's it.
Basically, an anti-viral been given, right? Which is a nice connection, connecting STARS and Umbrella a bit tighter. Because in the games you read about it, but you don't really see much of Umbrella's like funding and form. Whoa, hello, lady.
No.
You wrote that backwards. I don't know what I feel about that nod. It feels a bit like too...
It's there for a trailer. There's like a lot of things in this movie. It's there for the trailer.
Yeah.
It's not a diary, is it? It's ketchup on a bloody kitchen door.
What's interesting, it doesn't really show how she got the blood there. Obviously, she's taking it out of the eyes and then wiping it on there. Alternatively, I don't think it just showed her with a bleeding hand or anything to draw it on there.
No. And the blood from the eye looked like it was coming after, but...
Yeah.
But I do...
Fool's errand, in the rain.
Yeah, I do like this bit, and I think these characters are creepy, and I like the shot of, I guess, the mum of this child running through and jumping through the window.
I think they do... So something that this movie does quite well is... Sorry, I just let her have her entrance. There you go. What a lovely lady. I think they do... I think this movie does quite well in terms of giving you some really funky traditional horror vibes. And again, it's what I was saying about it. Like, don't try and watch this as if it's a Resident Evil movie. Watch this as like it's a horror movie, and you're kind of just there along for the ride, and it's its own interpretation or whatever else. Like, there's some really interesting conventional horror stuff, which is definitely where these two sort of fit in. And at that point, if they kept that going, I feel I could actually probably like this movie a lot more, because it's definitely its own entity. It doesn't get too lost in trying to tell any particular Resident Evil story. It could stay uninspired by. The problem is it just skews so hard into trying to retell in the second half of the movie a Resident Evil story arc, and that's when it really starts going a bit off the rails in terms of the cinematography as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that moment there where Claire got on the bike and jumped on, that could have easily been it, and cut to credits for every part one of a TV series.
Yeah.
And now we're bleeding into the next episode. Definitely feels more episodic than it's let on, despite its short runtime at times.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, and with the budget of this thing, maybe making it a TV show would have been better. You could have localized the stuff that's happening. They didn't have to do the two stories and all this kind of stuff. And maybe that should have been the way to go, but it's not what happened.
They got Brad right, and I say that, and I mean they really didn't. That's good.
So here's Irons, another person that I'm a fan of. Again, completely different to the game, but I think he comes up with some of the lines of the movie.
I will say the part about the shark and the snake, I obviously get it, but was very, very clunky in this, and felt really. It's another thing where it just makes Jill look really odd.
Yeah, it's forced referencing, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, as a side note, I think the actor who plays Wesker would have been a really good shoe-in for Richard. Like in terms of visual appearance.
Yes.
The time is now. Check your locker. Sorry.
That's nice. Are you the Inquisitor from Red Dwarf?
I actually really dig the conflicted man who has to sell out his friends for money, but kind of doesn't want to do it, but does anyway.
So that's Ada, right? Sending him messages.
Yeah, Ada's the one who. Yeah.
I think it works, but it's delivered in such a weird way. I remember watching this in the cinema and just thinking, okay, Jill seems really upset, but at this point, all he's doing is following kind of clues to work out what's going on. He hasn't actually betrayed anyone. Like, it's really odd. Like, it seems so. Obviously, it's not a great script, and we've already talked about how it doesn't give you a lot of what you need. But there's so much stuff where, well, there's so much to that scene where, like, he eventually says, "Hey, Jill, like, I've got this pager, and I'm getting these weird messages or whatever," and it just feels like her reaction is so out of place because she's just losing her shit over nothing.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
I say Wesker, like you said, he doesn't actually do anything particularly duplicitous and evil until he shoots Birkin. Spoilers for a film we're all watching together.
Excellent use of language there, though.
Yeah.
If it had just said, "I've been given this," if it had just disclosed that he'd been given it.
Well, it's even then, like, I was getting these weird messages, like, back in the day or whenever it was, I don't 100% remember, but I'm getting these messages and then someone's given this palm part in my thing and I'm getting these weird messages on it. I'm investigating. Like, it doesn't mean, oh, I've betrayed you all, by the way. Old Mars Rider, off she goes.
Slow down, Bill.
He's not going that fast based on the lights behind.
No.
What is your life's work, though? I've got to ask.
Could I just point out the actors didn't move in the rave. He'd suddenly braked and did that. They literally were just pretty chill there. Like, they should have a bit of whiplash going on right about now if you were going at crazy high speeds and then just brake really suddenly.
Should what?
Oh, Silent Hill nurse. Make sure you listen to her.
Yeah.
Steve, you're going to appreciate his hair again.
Well, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how they did that. Because he's bald for most of, well, not bald, much shorter. It feels, it looks flake.
Yeah,
so fake. It's throwing me a bit off.
That's the hair that's closer to the game, I suppose, though.
To be fair, when you say he looks fake, at no one point does he feel like a scientist in this movie.
No.
No. Yeah.
Like, he's definitely not the right casting in the sense that, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. It's more so much he just fits that military cutout much better.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he looks too much like he could, fire a rifle and tear someone apart, whereas a scientist generally wouldn't look like that. But,
Oh, I can see we are coming to the moment in the movie I love the most. It's wrong and crap. And special for all the wrong reasons.
I love that people hate it because I just love it so much.
No, I don't hate it. I think it's amazing. It's one of the best moments in the movie. It sums it up perfectly.
Is as much as I enjoy this for fun, it's a shame it does look like a practice take. I think if the guy walking in on fire didn't just kind of saunter in, it would have been fine. I think Leon not hearing the explosion and stuff, you can put all that aside. It's just the walk does just like that look like they're trying out the effects, and it's a shame. Maybe they literally, I think they just had one go at it, and I think that's it, and they had to like it or leave it.
I think it's... yes, I like to project onto these things because it's more entertaining that way. I like the idea that the guy's like, right, okay, so you are a zombie. You are staggering into this thing. You've been bitten. You're all over the place. The same way as you're driving the truck. You're a mess. You come in. How do you want to do it? Like, just do this and put some music over the top of it. Amazing. It's like, okay, action. Guy just literally walks in like that. He's like, that's perfect. That's exactly the energy I was looking for there. Amazing. I'll put some music over the top. It'd be incredible. Because, we don't know the director's vision.
No, we don't.
Who are we to say this?
I like I say, I'd be stunned if they thought that the take was good enough because of the walk. I think everything else I can buy. The walk is an issue, but I just have fun with it.
I like the description. It's an issue.
Yeah, it is an issue.
It's an A-class bug.
Yeah. And the soundtrack choice is just gold as far as I'm concerned.
Obviously. I've already made my statement about the soundtrack. It is what it is. It's beautiful.
Oh,
Look at it. It's just something so special. It's just amazing. And then even the way he falls down, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
Side note, just throwing out there, that is the exact pose we gave Police Chief Irons in the Resident Evil 2, the board game.
Oh, nice.
So it's a nod to the Resident Evil board game. Just
Yeah.
thrown out there.
Perfect.
Yeah, totally. I can get behind that.
Yeah, see. That's hey, it's official Capcom Capcom product. Could be.
Yeah, the that walk is very Shaun of the Dead, and obviously this isn't a comedy movie, but it has lots of fun in it, and I think I remember seeing that in the cinema, and my opinion just changed, and I was like, okay, there's going to be moments like that in this film, and then I think I just softened on it there and then, and that's maybe why I came away liking it more than others.
I think that's the energy you're going for. Have more of that.
Exactly.
Don't have that one weird instance of it. It's a bit like The Hobbit, right? I remember watching The Hobbit, and they kind of do their music number a little bit into that movie, and it's almost like then they completely forget that there was a music piece in the rest of the movie for the rest of it until you get to like the end, and then there's another one, and you're like, you started making a musical, got bored of the idea, and at some point you realise, oh yeah, okay, we kind of filmed one scene. Oh, fine, just leave it in.
Should have leaned harder into the comedy. Make it like an actual action comedy.
Yeah.
Well, it could be it can be borderline comedy and still a horror, and it just does feel like it's just fighting with that. There's so many constraints this movie had, and they wanted it to be scary, and they wanted it to have fun as well, because they knew we probably can't make the scary film with all this stuff we've got to work with. So let's just do some silly moments, but then the balance isn't there, and it's a shame. Because Chief Irons is hilarious.
Just to appreciate his lovely car here, because we're not going to see it looking pristine for much longer. It's beautiful. I like the way he's obviously cleaned it a lot. It looks pretty nice. It's nice.
It's like a mustard colour, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look at it though.
Chief
it's so
of police
clean.
in his darling junker.
There's no dirt on it or anything. It literally just like it rolled off the forecourt. It's pretty nice.
I get the feeling
But the whole point, though, he's leaving now to flee because obviously he knows what's happening, or at least has some kind of inkling, and it adds just runtime to the movie, even leaving and coming back. I don't know how I feel about that myself.
I think there's lots of parts with this movie where, like now, for example, this should be the start of the movie, but there's a whole bunch of stuff where you need to just suspend belief.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't. You're not watching a movie. You're not watching something that's been put together. I don't want to say like by professionals. That's mean, but you know what I mean. You're not watching something where it's been put forward and it's going to have a conventional storytelling or something even that works. It is something where you are watching just this hodgepodge of random scenes that's been thrown together in a blender, and you see what comes out.
Yeah, it's I've thought about this film a lot before and after it come out, and I think it's hard to believe that lots of what we see is what was intended, and I think, why is that? And is it budget? Is it the studio? I mean, I think Sony clearly didn't care about this film. I mean, they gave it for a horror, it had a fair budget. I think, what was it? It was like 25 million. You're lucky to get 10 for a horror movie, but this needed more money because of the effects. But then there was no marketing.
Uncharted and they had Spider-Man.
Yes, and there was no marketing. They had other big movies, so it was almost set up to fail. And I think I can imagine they just forced a fair few, what's the word? Not cuts, but I guess just caveats to having the film being made. And I think maybe putting film 1 and 2 together was possibly one of them. Because it just blows my mind that was ever a decision that a fan of the games, who Johannes Roberts claims to be, would have ever chosen to do. It feels like a studio decision, and I think it's one of the main reasons the film suffers, because this should be the start of the film. You could do a whole movie on Resident Evil 1, and we end up with a hodgepodge, like Sherwin says.
I think REP touched on this in their covering of the film, where there's certain lines of it may have been a case of Roberts didn't have the time, like he knew he would get one, he may not get a second, and thought, well, I'm going to do both.
Yeah, but the way to achieve that isn't to then just make a bad movie. It is to make a really good movie. It is the way to achieve that is to make a movie that actually people go, wow, you did this with barely any budget. No one thought you could do it. You did it. Well, actually, let's make a second one. We'll just pause for a moment to acknowledge Crazy Joe again. But yeah, and also the bird, which did look a bit nicer. That was a nicer looking bird. Good GG. But yeah, no, I think it's something where. I think, I agree with you, Mr. KDB. Like, it clearly is something where I imagine Sony came down and said, yeah, you need to do X, Y, and Z because that's how movies work, and trust us, this is how, it's our money and this is what we'll sell. This is what.
Well, and it's a franchise as well, so they're going to have a lot to say about it. It's not an unknown IP where they could have said, oh yeah, here's 15 million, go nuts. It's like, hey, no, this is Resident Evil, all right, we might have the. And those other movies, no matter what you think of them, most of them made Sony loads of money. And so they're going to have a say. And they've said, no, we want to do a horror one based true to the games. And they've gone, yeah, but people don't play video games. So it needs to just be dumb and stupid. And it's
I think it's more so much you need to find a way that you can appeal beyond the audience. Because the audience, if every single person of the audience went out and bought this thing, that's not making enough money for us to give you the budget we're giving you. No. You need to appeal to a wider audience to that. You need to reach out to everyday Joe. I think the issue is that I definitely agree with where you're coming from there. I think that's I think for me this is something where again it's just this would have been a better movie if actually no, it's an easy way of saying it. Resident Evil's got such a massive it's so many different things depending on what it is. I've talked to people about Resident Evil where they say that for them, Resident Evil is squad-based combat, where it's a bunch of people with machine guns, it's ultra-violence, and it's killing everything that moves, which is completely in contrast to if you speak to anybody who played the original game. Because there's been so many versions of Resident Evil, there's so many visions of it, it just doesn't... It's something where I think there's so many people who can fall into so many traps of this is what we think the identity of this game series is.
Exactly.
And sadly, this tries to be all of those things and achieves none of those things.
Exactly. And I'll tell you why I think... because a lot of people are very quick to blame the director, and I'll tell you why I think it's more the studio. People were working on this movie before Johannes Roberts came along. James Wan was actually working on this film, who is an incredible director and producer and like a modern horror master. And I find it difficult to think that James Wan would have left the movie for reasons other than he wasn't being allowed to do what he wanted to do as a director. So they brought in Johannes Roberts, who has far less sway, and just said, yeah, this is what we want to do. Can you make it work, please? And this is what we ended up with.
It's nice. There's nice cinematography in this bit. I quite like this scene.
There's lots of great.
It's cool.
Lots of great cinematography. It's
probably
the strongest thing.
Yeah, we did just talk
What's
over
that Romero film that's not zombies but a disease? Is it The Crazies?
The Crazies, yeah.
Is this meant to be like some kind of homage to that?
It kind of is, yeah. Or yeah.
We did just miss the talk over, or sorry, I just talked over the hallway scene, which we should apologies to everybody. We probably should have nodded to that bit. It looked cool.
It did look cool. It did cool, and credit where it's due. It's nice attention to detail in that sense, even if it is brief and it's just just focused on one part. It's cool to see this stuff, and we talked about this on the podcast. We've been so used to not seeing actual Resident Evil things on screen, or at least seeing them done badly. At least that looked like the main hall, and it felt like the main hall. So you got to give them points.
I think the Journey as a soundtrack there wasn't the best choice, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
No, it's but doesn't he say the line earlier? The best way to get women into bed is to play them Journey. So I like that callback, even if it is a bad choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's Journey that probably would have fit better.
Yes, of course, but cost more money. Come on.
Well, I don't know.
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. I don't know whether if you're going to have Journey on there, it costs you more money to get specific tracks or not.
I'm going to say on the subject of sets, how do we feel about the RPD's main hall and I want to say a little bit of the exterior?
Well, again, it looks authentic for the most part. Some of it does feel a bit CG, but another thing I mentioned before is I like how some of the movie feels very hyper-real and movie set, and it kind of gives it a nice little texture. But it's so limited. We see so little of it, and which is why I would have just loved 2 films that explored the locations, more widely.
I think for me the issue is and the RPD main hall and the mansion main hall, perhaps not necessarily the mansion main hall, because the rest of the mansion they obviously filmed on set somewhere, I imagine, but
they did for a bit.
RPD certainly suffers from this, where it is something where it feels so disjointed. Like you have this scene which feels like it's in some massive police station, like it's the underground car park for it. And then you see obviously the main hall which looks like the RPD main hall. But then when you look at the office, the stars office, for example, it's some pokey little shed somewhere. If you look at kind of the prison cells, it's kind of basically one cell underground. If you look at Chief Iron's office that we saw earlier on, or some of the tunnels they're going to go through later on, where it's just bare plaster block, breeze block. It does just feel very much like there's no. It doesn't feel like you looking at this and go, okay, so I could see. I imagine what this building is like, the interior of this building is like, or even the exterior. It just feels completely all over the place.
Oh, it's the plastic dog, everybody.
It's not even doesn't even look plastic. It just doesn't look like it's there, which is such a shame.
Beast Wars. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a big shame, and I think. If you're doing this film, it has to be done right. And to be fair, the liquor looks okay, but you can see where the money went on this film, and it's not the dogs. It's not.
It's sad because you could do so much without actually showing stuff.
No, of course, yeah.
And that's that's the biggest thing about it. Think about what especially these Resident Evil games, right? RE1 and RE2. There's so much where. The games are about running from brief oasis of light to brief oasis of light, and all the horrors is out there in terms of the moans and the zombies talons reaching out the dark or whatever else. There's so much you could do without having to use insane amounts of CG, and it's a shame that it's just lacking that.
No, and not to give too much credit to Paul W.S. Anderson, but the dogs in the original movie just look better because they were practical, and it's baffling to me because CG is not cheap, even modern CG as it gets cheaper, and I just think if it's probably a production, it's more like a coordination issue where they don't want to spend the time and effort to have dog handlers on. We'll just add it in CG. It'll cost a bit extra, but it saves us scheduling and time and all this kind of stuff. It's less to manage in that sense, and then you end up with something that looks bad, so it wasn't the right way to go.
Also, as a side note, if you hit a dog with a fire extinguisher, I mean, granted, I've never done it, but I'm pretty sure the dog just doesn't stand there barking at you while you hit it 3-4 times. It'll probably bounces around.
What if it's a zombie dog, Sherwin?
Sorry, I've never hit a zombie dog with a fire extinguisher either, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to stand there waiting for that to happen either.
And look, so these shots of the zombies as well at gates, I do love this. Now think of the second movie, so Resident Evil Apocalypse. There are shots in that movie which are just blurred, ghosted shadows on a wall, and it looks so bad. And I think some people praise Resident Evil Apocalypse as being close, more faithful to the franchise. but I can't forgive it for those horrible things. And then I look at this, and this is brilliant zombie stuff. Even in the, all right, with this film and all its flaws, I got to give the credit where it's due. As I say, those zombies are great.
And they come across as diseased and deranged people, rather than just straight up corpses.
Yeah. Well, yeah. To be honest, this is giving me flashbacks to Rammstein gigs. But it's kind of like you're at the front and you're getting smashed into the railing. But yeah, whatever works. I think the issue I have, and we will see this later on, is that the Sherwin zombies, as I didn't know that was their name, but the Sherwin zombies, and then the other zombies. Again, it's the same disconnect I was just talking about with the RPD building. They don't feel like the same creature, and that's fine. Like, that's perfectly okay. Like if that's what you set up, but there is no exposition to describe that. I'll talk about what that is. Are they the early stage, and then they become the gooey zombies that we're going to see inside the mansion? Are they kind of just a different thing entirely?
I was under the impression that the zombies in this mansion are meant to be like later stage Crimson Head style.
They've been turned for a while. That's how I take it. But again, who are we to kind of try and add so much logic to these situations?
The issue I remember is that when you actually see them break into the RPD building, you have a mixture of both types of zombies that doesn't fit. So,
yeah.
Either that or there's just a whole bunch of those zombies hanging out in the RPD building and they just don't know.
And stuff like this, again, this is potential for, and we've kind of mentioned it a couple of times, if we just had a Resident Evil 1, and I've also heard people say, you can't make a Resident Evil 1, there's not enough content, and I completely disagree, because just stuff like this, which could have been more drawn out, and there's so much to work with in RE1 that easily could have had a full film. Yeah,
I think the issue is that people get stuck with simulationism. People think you have to recreate exactly what that game was and all the scenes and all of the locations. You don't. The key thing you need to do is the themes and the ideas of what it is, the sense of isolation, the sense of tension as you go through things.
Exactly.
Like kind of that journey of discovery of what is happening here. Are we looking for our buddies? Are we trying to survive? Like, what is this thing? Discovering secrets about the lab and all the other stuff. There's so much you can do that you don't necessarily need to replicate on a one-to-one scale. There's loads of things you could do where you could have several people from Stars running around or whatever else.
And it's not winning Green Blazer 0 out of 10.
Steve, you took the words right out of my mouth. I said, if people want to complain about that. Where he's got the wrong outfit on.
Yeah.
But I don't care about it. That doesn't bother me.
Oh, poor Enrico. Is that Enrico? Or
I think so.
No, it's Enrico, right?
Yeah, Doody comes later in the lighter sequence.
The guy who even looks just like Elliot Edwards.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Like, Richard here, the only thing I know about him is his actor really, really went to Twitter and social media about fuck Alice over and over and over again.
About what, sorry?
Their entire social media presence since the run up to this film is basically trying to bash the other ones, the Paul W.S. Anderson ones, which is fine, I don't like them either.
Yeah.
But that was his entire media shtick for a while.
I think he was. I think he's
like glass asses, mate. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think he's just a really hardcore fan, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I think this guy got in touch with us and asking whether we could send him. Us, I should specify.
Yeah.
Of SFG, asking if we could send him like some exclusive Richard sculpts and like actually make some stuff for him based off of his appearance here. He's a fairly hardcore fan, I think.
Fair play. So it's not Jill's gun.
I was going to say, what gun is that?
Oh, I like that zombie. He's just hanging out. It's like, oh look, food.
Oh, nice.
And there is a mix because there's I guess you could say that's some crimsons, and then there's some lumbering ones as well.
Yeah, but at least these guys, feel like the zombies that you're familiar with, right? Which is cool.
Yeah.
It's just an inconsistency, I guess.
Yeah.
How the hell is Chris not dead or infected yet? I'm sorry.
Oh, that guy in a sensible jumper. Is that a consistency error where he just changed to a guy in a blazer? Because Nice Jumper Man isn't there.
Yeah, the sort of first shot and then the shot where he put him against the wall, it looked like a different one.
Yeah. You cannot just... Yeah, you can't discard a nice M&S jumper like that. That's just not on. Oh, that dude was just human, just standing there wondering what was going on.
It's very peak British that we're talking about M&S jumpers during an action sequence. Yeah, that's on brand, I think.
It speaks to the quality of the action sequence.
There we go. So you talk about music references. There's another one there, but there's also another 90s reference there. How do we feel about Snake on the phone? It's a double reference, if you like.
I actually don't feel like many people playing Snake until the early 2000s, but that's just me. Not to be that guy.
I thought, honestly, going into this film, I thought Yawn was going to be in the movie. And then when I saw that, the phone, I thought, yes, there we go. There's the foreshadowing. They're going to stumble across the snake in the mansion. And then it just wasn't, so more disappointing.
It would have been better if it was Richard playing Snake.
Yeah.
This is nice. It's got a nice sort of Harry Potter vibe, isn't it? It's lovely.
I actually do think some of the rooms in this mansion look like, obviously not one-to-one, but actually really like on tone.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were playing, if someone was playing Snake in this room, it would work.
And then you hear a big shuddering slither in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can make a CG Snake in 1997 with Anaconda, surely they could have done it here.
All they need to do is just have like a sort of hear the slithering noise and then see a big shadow moving past the window, brick it, and run out the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that much effort. Although this, I think, is actually the is this the RPD building? Is this in the remake, the library bit?
It looks vaguely like somewhere in the mishmash between Zero and the RPD one for me. So you're telling me that Brad not only took the helicopter back up, taxied into the air, and then crashed into the mansion while it was on the ground and was being bitten?
Yeah. You've got to be careful. Don't say anything. I know more than most. Brad Vickers people are really into Brad Vickers and the superhuman feats he's capable of. Don't try and talk those people down. They will come after you.
This room's full of references. You got the poster on the wall. The ammo as well is directly from the games.
Yeah,
or from the remake, I should say.
Yeah, two people who pretend to be characters from the games. It's pretty cool.
Poor Leon.
Yeah. I still think, again, he feels very much like original RE2 Leon. I think they got that spot on. Not the Leon that they turned him into over time, but certainly that original Leon.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because he's definitely one of the characters that had a lot of criticism, but I'm with you. He feels so much like that original Leon. And I think because I'm less interested in those later versions of Leons, that's probably why I care less about people that can, when they complain about that. Because I like him here. He's great. This feels like the Leon.
As a connoisseur of all things Leon Kennedy, don't misquote that. I actually think he's the most normal to his counterpart character. Yes, but he's undermined by some of the more oafish things that Leon ends up doing in this film.
Yeah.
Like everyone else gets moments where they do some mess up, sure, but he gets the most not character assassination, but not doing him any favors. Like this scene in particular.
Yeah.
You say that. This scene, I always felt... I remember watching this in the movie, and it had that perfect thing that good movies should do, but this one does for the wrong reasons, which is I'm sitting there watching this going, come on, man. There are much easier ways to say, look, hi, I'm not going to hurt you, but there is a person turned into a zombie in my cell. If you could please let me out, that would be really nice about now, and I'll tell you anything you need to know. Instead of just giving him a whole bunch of lip and then grabbing his gun and all the other nonsense that happens right now. There are much better ways to achieve what you're trying to do here, Ben.
He drops the F-bomb far too much as well. Which just cheapens the dialogue. I mean, a lot of the characters do it. But
yeah. But back to what I was saying, like this cell doesn't feel like it belongs in that, that tower, the main hall they've got above them, if that makes sense. It just doesn't fit.
So this is like, I think, the third exposition point in the film, and possibly the last one. I think Birkin does a little bit, and then that's it.
I'm starting to not really appeal on the design. He's coming across as the dodgy geography teacher in a British crime drama.
Maybe this was like a repurposed scene from Midsummer Murders.
Oh, I'll totally watch Leon Kennedy in Midsummer Murders. Why not? Let's go.
It's a crossover that the world didn't know they needed, but they really do.
You've got a gun!
Again, there's another nice, the Rammstein album cover, the one that had Du Hast on it.
Oh, yeah.
There with the face in the black background.
It's a great shout.
I say that for size benefit,
Yeah.
as much as anything.
But yeah, just back to Leon, just quickly, Steve. Like I think we talked previously as well about the strength of characters in this movie and character arcs. You'll struggle to find arcs with pretty much all of the characters, but Leon's is so crystal clear in this film. I'm not sure I'm a fan of him being the one that uses the rocket launcher, but it fits with his arc from the moment you see him drunk and to where he gets to bumbling oaf to being the hero. It's simple, but it's perfect. It's coherent, and you can hang on to it. And it's one of the most coherent things in the film. And it doesn't get enough credit, I think.
There's a lot of gore coming out of that zombie's mouth.
Yeah.
It's like it just had a milkshake or something. And just...
Whereas Claire's arc is trying to uncover the conspiracy and then all of a sudden stop and start shooting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wesker's the only other character I think who has an arc.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, lo and behold, the two really divisive characters.
I mean, that's authentic. He dies in a prison cell.
This would have been the perfect moment for a random shoulder burster, though, to completely stick the knife in the Remake 2 version. Oh, goodness me, he's still alive.
He just wants to go with them. He doesn't want to be in this police station any more than they do.
Have you ever pointed your gun in the air and got shot and gone, ah?
Does that map, not to get all nerdy, I'm assuming that map's also a reference, right?
I think
it's
just there.
I think so. Yeah.
I keep getting stuck into just watching it, so that says something about the film. So I keep trash talking it and actually enjoying myself.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of strange fascination, isn't it?
Yeah. This is another part where, where I defend Jill, because so obviously she sees what's happened here, and she says to Wesker, no, we need to go and tell Chris, we've got to regroup. She's sensible here.
There's some classic delivery line there. You saved my life. It's perfect. It was. I appreciate that a lot. It was good. I think Wesker's got this kind of energy in this movie, a bit like Danny Glover does in Predator 2, where he just seems knackered at the start of every scene. It's like he just run around the block several times.
He's too old for this shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
You see, so you could say you're trying to solve a case and you're doing some undercover stuff, Wesker, and you can redeem your entire character. No.
Exactly. Literally just... he doesn't even have to justify anything. What are you talking about? And this is the bit where he says, yeah, no, I've got this thing, I'm following a hunch. Because that's effectively what he's doing at this point.
Yeah.
But I have a particular set of skills.
Well, someone has to.
So that's his motive, money.
Hi, Nikolai. Although, to be fair, that tunnel raises lots of questions about impossible geography being a nice reference to the video games. Because it just covers all the ground to Raccoon City. Because Claire and Leon shot pretty quick, don't they? If I remember right. Which is very appropriate for RE0's magic elevator being in RE2 and the way that it actually would have to distort hundreds of miles or something stupid. Or it shoots itself way off course to actually be the same elevator. Not to get completely off topic.
See, this is good. I like these character traits from Jill. She's not letting him get away with that. She's not being dumb. And then she sends him on his way. She doesn't stay with him. She's like, no, you're an asshole. I might be a gun nut, but I'm not doing it.
Peas and rice.
That was quite a nice shot, to be fair. No, I'm not talking about his accuracy. I was in that was actually quite the way the zombie sort of spun around, having I don't know what the appropriate term is, but having been murked or whatever you want to call it, spins around, sort of falls to the ground. That actually looked quite nice. Considering a lot of the other action scenes in this feel quite
Unplanned.
sketchy.
Yeah.
Well, I see. Jill is he's showing that she's the last part of the light as Jessica disappears into the darkness.
But this is good. This is all Romero referencing and Night of the Living Dead and stuff. Just replace it with the shopping mall.
But why are they actually at the police station is the question.
Well, my theory is their last sense of humanity is we need help, let's get to the police station. But again, I don't think we should try and apply too much logic to this film.
No, that's fair.
It's where the food is.
Because that's the Romero thing, isn't it? Why are they going to the shopping mall? Because they're brainwashed and they're just going to go shopping.
Yeah, but that's a very calculated statement, whereas this, they're just staggering around going into places.
Yeah.
See, at this point, they've switched to not the zombies that you saw before. That guy, perhaps, but do you see our point? There's kind of a mix of traditional zombies.
Yeah.
Like that one.
Yeah, he's full.
Where he doesn't
he's
really
gone.
fit.
He's full blown.
I do like that Chief Irons, I know a way out of here is to go to the car park. They could have done a lot more there in terms of talking about how they're trying to fortify the police department and how they want to make a last stand there or whatever else. They could have done a lot more with that.
4 a.m. 2 hours until Cowblivion, if I remember right.
Oh, Cowblivion. Cowabunga.
I'm still surprised that Chief Irons is A, not really betrayed them, and is B, still alive.
I always like with Chief Irons to think of Chief Irons and as the RE 1.5 Chief Irons. I like that guy. He was kind of fun.
Dying on the couch.
Well, more like I'm going to stay behind so everyone else gets out. I'm actually a nice guy. Can you imagine, like, whoever the original voice actor or whoever came up with that guy was like, oh man, you've really changed what this guy is doing. Like, you've really spun him around. Like, he was the noble guy who was keeping everyone safe, and you've turned him into like the supervillain from the whole thing.
In this film, I just feel like all the competent police officers have left, and he's the only one left to do the job, and he doesn't really want. I mean, he tried to leave. We saw him try to drive off. He doesn't really care about them. And then he had no choice but to come back. He's definitely more of an idiot in this film. That shot was very
not conniving.
No,
well, it's just that idea of how are we going to get out of Raccoon City? Just drive to where a forest edge is and walk out. It's not like you're landlocked on an island. You're on an island and surrounded by bridges are the only way to get out.
Does orphanage feel more like a American high school, or is it just me?
I guess it does a little bit. I mean, in my mind, orphanages are always old buildings that have been, around for a long time, which this does feel a little bit like.
It's because you got the long hallway shots. It feels a bit Buffy.
Yeah.
This is
cool.
quite nice.
Yes, this is very good.
Yeah.
Hi.
Best way delivery ever. Hi.
I mean, that's good. You are supposed to be quiet around the liquors. That's considered.
Yeah.
That's it. Lisa Trevor is, in fact, the strategy guide.
I knew she was going to be help. I think the second I saw that shush in the trailer, I specifically said, well, she's obviously not a bad guy, not a villain.
Well, see you later, Ryan's Lord.
Owie.
Doesn't
Gruesome.
really look like him.
No.
No, but I think the tear in the face is meant to be a reference to Remake 2. There's like that whole dude who got murdered by a liquor, isn't there?
That actually looks quite good, the liquor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of the money went on the liquor.
Most of the money went on this one liquor.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything else is just, it didn't matter. And here we are with the... I mean, this is like Rock versus Austin, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is serious conversation now.
is.
This is the WrestleMania match you didn't know you needed to see until this movie. You could. I'm sure someone somewhere has put some WWE commentary to this and make it.
And a chokehold, Lisa Trevor.
Yeah. It's been torn in half. Yeah.
Lisa Trevor decides which remake is superior.
She does look a bit knackered as well after that, which is nice. You'd think that she'd be more covered in slime after that. Like liquors do feel like they're kind of sort of slime cut. They're sort of greasy, slimy creatures, don't they? They glisten when they move.
I'm still trying to figure out how the outbreak has started. I'm going to be real.
I don't think you should really apply logic to this. Though.
Okay. For all these horrible things to happen and get loose.
Well, it probably all goes back to Chris, and his frat boy house. But
Yeah. Left his
think
pizza out overnight and wrong person ate a bit.
Yeah, I think we're now approaching the point where the movie's going to stop feeling like the cinematography is in a good way, if memory serves. What I am looking forward to, if they do manage to make a sequel to this in any way, shape, or form, or decide that it performed well enough to make another one, is going to be the inevitable mashup of RE3 and Code Veronica.
Yeah.
That feels like it'd be really hard work for them.
Authentic keys.
Yeah. And I do really like the actual, like I said earlier, the actual aesthetic of it, the hair bleeding through one of the masked eye holes, and the look, while not one-to-one, is disturbingly reminiscent enough. More so than, like, say, Silent Hill 1's first movie's version of Pyramid Head, which is like some kind of buff gargantuan beast compared to the weird duties in the game. So this orphanage has a secret little underground laboratory basement that's like 2 rooms aside. Which is 5 minutes away from the mansion.
Something like that.
Oh.
See, this just feels a bit mean. Like, it looks like she was going to go with them, and then Claire's like, no.
No, goodbye.
I know you saved us from the liquor and stuff, but you're a bit weird.
Yeah.
You smell really funky. Like, no, we don't want that. And you're just like, come on, take Lisa with you.
Let her die heroically saving them again.
Yeah.
She didn't need to die. She could just go hang out with them. They're like, this is our Lisa. She's a bit weird, but, you know.
What do you think, Lisa? Mama! Thanks. Yeah, great. Cheers.
4:23 a.m. Such a random specific time.
Oddly specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, is this Chris's gunfight and lighter rampage?
Scene, I feel like... So this movie had reshoots, and I feel like this was plonked in to just pump up some of the action, because... I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just literally so standalone.
I think there was a concept for this
Sequence.
and honestly, I just think they missed the mark.
Yeah.
I think if they storyboarded this at all, then it was certainly something very different.
Yeah.
Look at that. That was terrible. I think zooms are always awkward, and that was a bad example of one. But I think it is something where it's just obviously they were shooting for something and they just didn't hit it right.
Yeah. Right, guys, keep things warm. I'm just going to be back in 2 minutes.
I mean, to be fair, I know shooting action sequence from nowhere, but the actual atmosphere of the whole concept of being alone, surrounded by monsters, and not bewildered as to what's going on. It's chaos.
It would have been better. It would have been better. Bearing in mind, this is still a scene that's obviously clearly got a lot of people in dressed up and everything else. It's not like they've just done loads of fast edits and these are just random snapshots of stuff. Other than the fact that this seems to be made to just basically make sure that anybody with epilepsy is dead by the end of the movie.
That's the next thing I was going to say. It's brutal on that regard.
Yeah, it's something where it would have been much, I'm sure, more interesting if you have that initially and then one of the zombies falls back into a fire and obviously sets fire to something and then you've got a different source of illumination. That could be kind of fun, like some sort of progression of the scene.
And I say this whole gunfight sequence, I would have probably had it right at the beginning of the film, and then like this little bit, you cut away and you start the film. So you have Chris, something horrible has happened to Chris, and you have to figure out how they got there.
Well, the other part of it as well is the lighting doesn't work here. Like, he's not lit just by that. You can tell there's other lights going on. They just need to go off. Like, it's not what we're seeing is not just the lighter itself.
Oh dear.
Hi. Bummer.
And then just need a big old "you died" on the screen.
There you go. And then Jill, who just seems to have no care whatsoever. That is very hard. That guy's just in a bathrobe, just come from the spa underground or something, see what's going on.
Right, so what pivotal plot points did I miss?
You missed some awesome trigger discipline, opening fire not a metre away from their colleague at them.
Yeah, Jill has control bursts. That's what we like to see, and Jill Valentine apparently is really very good at that.
She's the hero of this movie. I keep saying it.
Sure, you can keep saying it.
Poor Chris. This entire film is walked from room to room, got attacked, and had fuck all happen to him.
He just seems thoroughly bemused at any given time.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know what the hell is going on about him. And in that respect, I guess he actually is a bit like the original OG Chris. He's just some meathead who found himself in the situation and just going through things and hoping to, I'm sure I'll be fine at the end.
He just needs to drop a killer pun about getting to the root of the problem and is there.
Yeah. Somehow it had not occurred to me, but I realise now this movie really could have done with a Rebecca character as well. I have no idea how that's not been obvious to me yet, but it is now.
So I don't know whether Rebecca was in the original script. I know Barry was, and they took him out because some people had to die, and they didn't. Yeah, yeah, they couldn't put him in this film.
No, I like to think Barry's aura just broke it. When everyone started talking, like the camera just blew up or something. You can't do that.
You can't put Barry in this film and have him die. People won't believe it.
Yeah, that's the way that people literally would riot in the cinema screenings if Barry was not right.
Yeah.
Hashtag not my Barry Burton.
Yeah.
David Harbour for Barry, maybe. So I think.
Always. Ever since I saw him in Stranger Things, it's been a dead cert for me. Will he ever do such a thing? Don't know, but he'd fit the role.
Oh, I think he does anything. To be honest, Steve. I like him as an actor, but I do think he does anything.
I mean, already they're making Alfred look far too competent.
So there's a... That's true. I might have missed it, but there is a shot from the games, isn't there? The wingless body with the ants is directly lifted.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah, that's right.
So, is Birkin's goal to make what? Is he making the Ashford kids in this one, the super children or something?
Either that, or he's just, as Mr. KDB just pointed out, this is his limited edition Michael Jackson Dangerous album that we're just going for.
I'm glad someone got the reference.
Is it ever really explained what was waiting for Claire when she got taken off by those orderlies? We can't have two flashbacks to her being taken away by the orderlies.
He said you've got a new family, didn't he? So
yeah,
who would that have been?
Well, it's not really discovered, is it?
No.
Well, she gets away, doesn't she?
I mean, is she upset?
I guess she could have been a Claire Ashford, maybe, if she'd have, gone with it.
Is she having flashbacks to when her hair was blonde and she was one of those children, tearing wings off a dragonfly?
His face.
Okay, William, I need a photo of this. Can you smile?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you know what, Wesker? Sod it, kill them all. Yeah.
Look at those triceps.
I was literally about to point out the triceps. Like, that is a guy who does not skip. He might skip. Joe, he looks a bit. He's quite lean. Okay, this is a random room to walk into to take your kid and your wife into. Oh, by the way, honey, this is what I do.
Yeah. So isn't that is a character, isn't it? Remind me, Steve. That's supposed to be.
I don't know.
Is that Mayor's daughter or somebody?
It could be.
Yeah, I think they have a name, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Something like that.
Okay. I would have to do a little bit of Googling.
Quick live search.
I do like the way that you've got. Like, I'm making a virus. I'm not sure you have time to professionally print a label for it if it's like a work in progress kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brave choice. Birkin wearing the RE6 reference shirt. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's funny because I thought it was a Hollyoaks shirt. So. Did Wesker's pistol always have the attachment on the bottom of it though?
Yeah. That's actually meant to be very similar to his actual in-game one.
Oh, okay.
At least in RE5. I think it's like a laser module in 5.
Yeah.
This is the thing. They've spent so much time trying to be kind and nice with little touches like that. Yeah. They just didn't spend any time on the script.
Yeah, I feel we've now got into the point, by the way, where the cinematography is not the best.
Falls apart a bit, yeah.
The rest, this point,
here. It's just here in the train, and then I think we're at the end.
Yeah, it feels at this point like the last little bits where we've been walking around. Certainly, these scenes here, they just feel very much like they do the job kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost very Marvel movie in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, formulaic.
Annette, trust me, don't do. Well, sorry, wife of Birkin, please don't do that.
Well, actually, the thing that struck me in the cinema is just how chill Sherry is and how much she doesn't seem to care about so much of this stuff.
No.
Like, she's just seen both her parents killed, and then by the time she gets on the train, she's like grinning and hanging out with people, like having a great time.
Sequel hook, isn't it, for the Code Veronica movie? She's actually one of the Ashford twins in this.
Maybe.
I'm completely talking out of my arse, don't mind me.
I know, we're talking about fun speculation. Okay, she looks a little bit upset.
But you're right. At the end, she definitely doesn't express that same distress.
I think she kind of, at that point, she's pretty much represents the audience, doesn't she? She just doesn't really care anymore.
Speak for yourself, Sherwin. I'm invested all the way.
Oof.
Mate, you've been shot. I mean, I do like the way that Jill's machine gun morphed into a pistol. It was good.
I mean, that works. As if you don't like Jill, fine, but that's perfect. That's great script writing there. That line, because that's exactly what she's been the entire film.
Chris is just trying to understand what's happening.
Yeah. What? He's getting a headache from it.
Yeah. So I'm here to punch boulders, and that's about it. I was here to shaft some guns, and Wesker has better guns, so I can't really do that.
Robbie Amell has expressed that should they ever make a sequel, he wants a boulder punching scene. Which I think at this point, just do it. I mean, why not?
See, Wesker isn't even evil. He's telling him how to get out alive, sort of.
No, he's not evil, and that's what I mean. I like it, and you mentioned he has a strong arc. He kind of does, and I like the humanising of Wesker. It works for me.
I realise it's different from the games, but that's fine too, guys. You can have something different. A character who's a villain, but not necessarily in the ways that's just mustache twirl, evil scheme. Yeah,
and we're kind of maybe jumping ahead, but I guess the setup for the villain is Ada, because with the post credits, she's just going to be using Wesker. So you could theorise that maybe Wesker would eventually turn and help them again or something. Yeah, there's lots they could do. That's good.
Ooh.
A lot of people do take the mick out of this next scene and the way he's very theatrical with his monologue. But I like it. Don't go that way, it says off limits. It's just too muscly to get through.
That's the problem.
What a hunk.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good shot.
You're not really helping my point about saying the cinematography is not good at the end.
I know. Okay. I suppose I'm more thinking about the CG, because that CG earlier was so bad. Keep it in the dark and it's fine. You mentioned the snake. Just see the shadow and stuff. If you can just see the silhouette,
like the Thing.
It looks good. Yeah.
It's just like the Thing. You can't make it look great in the light. You keep it dark.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's CG versus practical, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's all right. We're definitely going to lose the point now, but
yeah. But then again, it's like, if you think, and I thought about this long before the film came out, if you think of what the BOWs in Resident Evil, how do you ever make them look? They're only ever going to look fake. You have to just kind of... Unless you pump so much money into it, which is just not going to happen, you have to just kind of let it go.
That's kind of what I was driving at. Like, the thing about Resident Evil, certainly the early ones, is not the visual kind of how much they jump out and they scare the crap out of you. It's the build to them. It's the fact that you just see them talons creeping around a corner. It is a shadow that's fast moving that scares the crap out of you. Those are the things that do. It's like a shot of like a shoulder of like Birkin or something like that. It's,
the liquor across the window.
It's small things like that rather than a gratuitous kind of here's the liquor standing in front of you thing. That's the parts where you went, that's really cool. Oh, it looks so cheerful.
Again, like the way he's delivering it is wrong, but the voice is good because that's what how Birkin sounds, how he goes in and out of kind of,
human and something more.
Yeah.
I think it's more the script doesn't feel right.
No,
that's the issue.
It is the issue.
It's RE5 Wesker in Birkin's body.
Yeah.
Floaty and schemy.
Yeah. The eye's good. I don't mind the eye. That looks quite cool. But then he has like a giant ear.
Yeah.
All the better to hear you with, Redfield.
Yeah. Do you know, I can't break away from this, and this is a reference you might know, KDB, maybe not you, Steve. He sounds like the Shockmaster.
The Shockmaster. He certainly does.
I can see what you're going for. It's kind of disturbing.
I'm never gonna be able to get away from that association now.
Oh.
And we sort of stayed on that shot of Chris a little bit too long. Really.
Yeah, there's a few moments like that.
It's the first time we've seen Claire smile.
Mm. There we go. Now it's RE1, Chris.
Yeah. That's a good line.
Yeah, that is classic. That's classic Leon.
Yeah.
That feels nice. Jill's got a Tamagotchi still, it's all good. She's like, come on, it hasn't turned into a little snake with a skull yet. It's good.
Dun dun.
Twitchy, twitchy. Oh no.
Some more
5
oddly
minutes.
specific times
Yeah,
that
yeah.
just didn't need to be there whatsoever.
Now this train reminds me more of the actual this cabin is RE0, but the one we were just in was the original Resident Evil films, like in a cabin of the train.
Mm.
At least it feels like it to me.
Perhaps that's the homage to the original Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
Mm.
I like the lighting here.
Yep.
It feels very Resident Evil. And you're right, RE0 is what it feels.
Mm. I'm surprised it's not the RE2 train, but whatever works.
I think we definitely crossed into the territory, by the way, of Sherry, who just doesn't seem to care.
No.
Like,
Yeah, that stuff I cannot excuse. I know this film has flaws, and I have my critiques. There's lots I love about it, but then you look at that and you think, why were they not just directing her to be more visibly upset?
yeah, you've just seen both your parents killed and your dad mutate into a monster, and you kind of just seem like you're looking around your first day of school at this point.
She is. Just give her a couple of lines. That's all you need to do.
Like, she just looks disinterested.
Mm-hmm.
You're a
With
kid
his
waiting
there you go,
around.
there's a smile.
She's actually smiling.
Two complete strangers,
Yeah.
doesn't know what's going on, but
Yeah,
she's
that's-
happy and smiling.
Yeah, unforgivable.
Ah, yes. I mean, that felt a little bit underwhelming, to be honest.
Is it not meant to be a nuclear bomb? Am I going crazy?
It's like it's caving in from the floor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the. I think that they were sold like a Duff exploration, a Duff self-destruct system, because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's done exactly what it's supposed to do. To be honest.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat.
It just feels like if that's your way, if that's your method of blowing up all the evidence of your wrongdoings, that was not the job. That was not the way to go.
It's why you could totally have a new game set in the Arclay mansion, because it's probably not been blown all the way up.
Yeah.
Code Veronica's base gets blown up by Alfred, and you still have a full adventure with Chris in it. So
Yeah. Side note: there's a missed opportunity for a nod there. If they'd had on that thing, the just coding on top of the tank, on top of the train, they could have had MA121.
Yeah, I thought that. And here they could have done. I mean, I guess they couldn't because they didn't have the money. Just have a minute of the hand slamming through the ceiling a few times before he actually appears.
I hear they could have done lots of things they didn't do.
Yeah. But this is my point. What do you do with this? It's always just going to look like a giant CG monster. So
Well, I think
it's
you- I
about
think you
as
don't-
good as it's going to get.
I don't think you put it in there.
No,
That's the
yeah,
honest
no,
answer.
I agree.
That's it. You shoot some eyes.
Yep.
Oh,
no.
Chris. Good effort, but it's
the
alright
one.
because Leon's already beat the game twice.
Yeah. Yep. Not the line for this at all.
No. Game over. Simple.
Also,
Just say
that is
it.
the worst thing to do. Like Chris, you want to dive, run backwards, not just stand next to it and take
Yeah.
cover.
Whee.
Sherry's like, "Is that my dad? Don't really care."
No.
Lol.
Lol.
Didn't like him anyway.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't.
This is the bit.
I don't hate that. I got to be honest. I don't.
That
hate
energy
that.
was all Carlos though.
Yeah, no, it was.
That's like a shot of Carlos in RE3.
Yeah.
Oh no! What a way to end the fucking film.
It's the twist.
The cow was trying to get out. The cow almost made it, and it did not make it. And now it is sad.
It's full of 90s references.
Moments like, press F for respect for the cow.
So, did they use like a fucking an earthquake bomb?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah. It's like that there were explosives underground the entire time, and they just set them all off.
So this is now the third instance of them using a different way of putting text on the screen, or we're about to see in a minute.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work.
I know,
This is
and
awful.
this is them again, just going, let's just do what they do at the start of the game. But yeah, you don't need to do that here.
Yeah, this and it just looks really bad.
Yeah. I like the music, that's good. And some people didn't like the abrupt ending, but I didn't mind the abrupt ending because a lot of the old movies did that. As soon as the big bad was destroyed, they did just... Somebody said a snappy one-liner and they rolled credits. That's exactly what those movies did.
Yeah, I think you need that one-liner, though. That's the point.
Well, it's like the game, doesn't it? You get the helicopter and then they fly off.
Yeah.
So that's John
But then
Carpenter again.
At the same time, it's worth pointing out, the endings are the worst part of... Like, even if you look at the remake of Resident Evil, the endings are the worst part of that game. That's no excuse for, this is how the game ended.
No, I'm just saying, it's very... people bashing the film for it. I'm saying the games do the same thing.
Yeah.
Not justifying either route.
Based upon Capcom's video game. Inspired by...
It's weird that he added the inverted commas to that.
Yeah.
I feel like it needed it.
So you want to hear a spicy take?
Give me the spicy take.
Go for it.
I didn't think you were that bad.
Yeah.
Although I just have to turn your brain off for it. It's just the film is just like unoffensive.
Sure. Let's just watch this quickly.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes.
We'll wrap up.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I could do a summary.
I mean that's good. Give them more credit, right? I mean that just looks like what it's supposed to look like.
I mean, there's a bit of a comedic element there, which is kind of fun.
He should have just said, "My eyes, my eyes."
Thank you for saving my life.
I need your clothes, your boots.
Look at that definition, bloody hell.
Oh yeah, this guy clearly found out he was going to be in their movie and just went, okay, I'm going to live in the gym now for a few months.
There we go. So there is a deleted scene with Ada as well where she approaches Wesker earlier in the movie. But I don't feel like the film needed her. It's a good setup for a sequel, which we're probably never going to get. But
one hopes. The glasses are quite fun. All he needs is that kind of spliff thing, and it kind of works.
The deal with it thing. Do you ever see sometimes people put the fake audience reactions over really mundane things, like people losing their minds? We need that for there. Wesker putting his sunglasses on, the crowd cheering and applauding. Well,
there you go.
So there we have it. Credits have rolled. And welcome to Raccoon City. So now I made myself quite clear in the past that even with some of the glaring flaws with this movie, I do have a lot of fun with it. It's easily my favourite Resident Evil film. I have huge complaints about the way it was sold to fans, and it was kind of almost set up to fail financially, I think. But with that being said, there also are plenty of people who enjoy it. And now we've watched it again today, I think it'd be good for both of you to give a bit of a roundup. What are your final thoughts? You've seen it for the third time now. We all have. Steve, let's go with you first. What's your final thoughts on Welcome to Raccoon City?
Honestly, it's not a film I'm going to go out and go and watch intentionally. I have had a blast with Sherwin and Kelsi here, but generally speaking, it's okay. But it's the same with all the other Resident Evil films. I can feel like this one's got slightly more of the heart in the right place in some areas, like the aesthetics and set design. The narrative, not so much. There's only two standout characters that we could really pick an arc for. Everyone else is kind of peters out. And if you want a dumb film to watch on a Saturday afternoon with friends that's sort of loosely based on the Resident Evil franchise, you're okay with this. Although if I had to pick of the live action films, oh goodness me, it's probably still the first one for me. That's because it has a narrative that's like, beginning, middle, end setup. Whereas this just kind of goes a bit all over the place for me. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination. It's fine.
That's fair. Sherwin, final thoughts?
It's a Resident Evil movie that comes with its own reputation and its own stigma. I think this one doesn't really deviate away from that. If you're a Resident Evil fan, you can watch it, but don't try and watch it and think this is going to be Resident Evil that you recognise. This is going to be someone's take on Resident Evil. The same, to be fair, that any game that's released for Resident Evil or any content that's released for Resident Evil now is someone's take on something. Cause it's not going to be the original games. They've long since moved on from that. Mm-hmm. Or whether your original game is RE4 or RE7 or whatever. I think this movie, in some ways, feels nicer than anything else, any of the other Resident Evil movies. Like the cinematography feels better. It's kind of its own way. It does lots of nods. It tries to be very faithful for things. It feels like someone was working very much within very limited parameters to try and get what they could into it.
Yes.
I think, unfortunately, it falls down creatively for many reasons. Not least of which is there's just no coherent plot to it that anyone who isn't us, effectively, like RE superfans, would actually understand or be able to follow. And sadly, those same RE superfans are served very badly by this movie because it does crap on so much that we know and love. But that said, again, it's probably the better one of, certainly if not the better one, then one of the better ones of the Resident Evil movies. I'd probably rather watch this than I would any of the others. Mm-hmm. And these guys have done their best. I think so. There's certainly some parts in it which are quite fun, and I think as long as you don't take it too seriously, it's quite fun.
The thing that makes me mad, not to jump in, is that this obviously has its heart more in the right place than the previous efforts. And because it's likely just been kicked out of the door and not supported by Sony and so on, it's going to send the wrong message to them. And they say, well, we tried to do it like the games and look how it turned out. So let's try it the other way.
I don't think Sony really care, to be honest. I think it's more about, I think Sony is the sort of size of organisation that there's never going to be something where, unless it's someone within Sony with quite a bit of clout, it's never going to be something where they ever look at this objectively and do that. It's just a money spinning exercise, the same as a Spider-Man movie or anything else like that, really. It's just, that's what it is. They're looking at this going, how much money can we milk from this thing? And, by using a template, because that's the safest way to do anything.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And I think Sony not being as invested in it is clear from the marketing, which I've complained about. I guess to us sometimes Resident Evil feels bigger than it actually is. It's certainly not as big as Spider-Man.
Definitely
it's just
not.
It's just no point even trying to compare. But yeah, I think both of you have kind of shared similar thoughts to what I would say is generally the broad view of this film, that it's not great, but there's some things to have fun with, and generally it's one of the most enjoyable ones. It's funny to think that if you're a Resident Evil fan, maybe you won't enjoy this. It's like, well, lots of people are different. Lots of different types of Resident Evil fans are out there, like you mentioned earlier, Sherwin, and how they see Resident Evil. So I'd say most people I know that have seen this movie thought it was quite fun, and then there's a few staunch fans that absolutely wish that it didn't exist, which is a bit of a stretch for me. But that being said, it's been fun to do the commentary here today. Maybe we should do all Paul W.S. Anderson movies, eh?
Oh,
no?
God. I don't speak weed, but I'm starting to think I need to start.
I won't be involved.
I think I like your intent. Let's start small.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do a commentary on something else that is anything other than that.
Yeah.
And we'll work up from there.
Let's do that, but not that.
I'm happy to go with that. Okay, well, let's wrap things up. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for joining us for our first ever Fast Commentary. Please do spread the word about First Aid Spray. Come and follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast feed, YouTube channel, and you can join the Discord and chat with other people who loved Welcome to Raccoon City as well, and the Pueblo people themselves. All the links can be found at f8spraypod.com. And as a wise Sai once said, have a good week.